I had kindly sponsored the school bell for years, ever since she was a poor student. Lately she had started telling anyone who would listen, that in 10 years she would be the richest woman in the world. She slapped her hand on my desk. From now on you will transfer to this account every month, $100,000 for my living expenses. I was baffled. I glanced at the note on my desk, scoffed, and said to the two of them, "Why should I?" Vivian acted like it was obvious. "It is only $100,000. Why do you need a reason? $100,000 would not even cover one of my bags." I looked at her bag and could not help laughing. It was an $800 knockoff she bought online. I could not believe she was bragging about it. "Did you forget that last month in the cafeteria, you snuck a bun into that fake bag?" Vivian's face turned red instantly. You are making that up. $100,000 for a bag. Vivian, are you dreaming? Before I started sponsoring you, you could not even afford a $1 lunchbox. Why should I give him living expenses? I tossed the note into the trash. "I am not his cousin," Desmond chimed in. "Lawson, your family is so wealthy. Is it not only right that you help us a little? Was it really necessary to humiliate us like this? Vivian, even if we end up begging on the street, you must never lower your dignity for my sake and beg him." But Vivian was not having it either. "If you will not give him the money, then I do not want your sponsorship anymore." I could not help laughing. "Over the past 2 years I have sent you a total of $2.5 million. If you have any pride, give it all back." $2.5 million? In 10 years I will pay you back $25 million. Vivian said it like she had a point. "I am giving you one chance. Miss it, and it will not matter even if you get on your knees and beg me later." Annoyed, I pulled out a sizable IOU and slapped it on the desk. "Sign this and you are completely free." Vivian scoffed and pressed her thumbprint onto the IOU. "Lawson, you had better not regret this." With that she pulled Desmond and walked off. I called the household manager and told him to cancel the sponsorship for Vivian. He agreed right away. "Understood, young master." Just then Tyler ran over and asked me, "Lawson, what kind of grudge do you have with her?" But I could hardly tell him that this woman had been my wife in my past life, and had nearly gotten me killed. Another classmate sitting behind us added that she used to be quite well behaved, and would lower her head to anyone she met. So why did she seem like a completely different person now? I thought to myself. Yes, a different person. Or rather, she had slipped right back into who she used to be in her past life. I still remembered that life. She had been convinced she was a natural at business, thinking it was nothing more than sitting in an air-conditioned office, editing a few documents and stamping a seal. In truth, I had been the one behind half of those decisions. Yet she kept calling herself a business genius, when I was really just the one signing the paperwork. She had no idea those resources would have made anyone look impressive. Just then a text came in from Vivian. "Lawson, I will never forgive you." I blocked Vivian's number, then called my driver, and asked him to pick me up from school. After he agreed, I hung up and walked out of the classroom. But just as I opened the car door, Vivian beat me to it and shoved Desmond inside. "Vivian, what are you doing?" But she acted as if it was perfectly reasonable. "Desmond's father is in the hospital, and we need this car. Drive us to Central Hospital." The driver stared at the two of them in confusion, then got out without a word. "Hello, is this the police? Two lunatics just forced their way into my car. Please send someone right away." Before long the police arrived. "Lawson, tell your driver to open the door. I can accept your sponsorship, but do not fool yourself into thinking I will ever like you." I smiled. "Officer, something is wrong with these two. I would suggest taking them straight to the hospital." Vivian was as confident as ever, trying to get my attention this way. "Is honestly so childish of you." The officer looked the two of them over. "You want to go to the hospital?" "Yes, please take us there now." Seeing how anxious Vivian looked, the officer did not push back. "All right then, get in. I will take you there." Vivian and Desmond got into the police car and left the school. That night I was woken up by my phone. Along with the call there were dozens of texts. I picked up my phone and saw the messages. "Lawson, how dare you have me sent to a psychiatric hospital? I am going to be the richest woman in the world. The moment I get out, you will be the first one I deal with." I turned on the lamp on my nightstand and scrolled through the messages with an indifferent expression. I yawned and looked at the screen. "Please, just pick up the phone. Tell them on my behalf that I am not crazy. You have 5 minutes to pick up or face the consequences." I set the phone down, muttered that it was pointless, pulled up my blanket, and went to sleep. Early the next morning in the cafeteria, I was carrying a case of water inside, when I saw Vivian and Desmond eating breakfast. Vivian picked through her tray with a cold expression, while Desmond tore off a piece of bun and ate it in big bites. Just then Tyler came over and lowered his voice. "Did you hear? Last night the principal personally went to the psychiatric hospital to sign a guarantee, and paid $5,000 for an observation fee, just to get those two released." I could hardly believe it. "Seriously?" After I sat down, Tyler leaned in close. "It gets even more ridiculous. Last night Vivian called everyone in our class, claiming she would be the richest woman in the world someday, and that if they could just scrape together $800 to bail her out now." My eyes went wide listening to this. She would pay it back 100 times over in 10 years. I spat my water out and asked, unable to believe it. "She called you too?" Tyler burst out laughing. "It was not just me, she went through the entire class. I heard she called our homeroom teacher twice at 3 in the morning, telling him she would repay his kindness once she got out, if he could just lend her $800 first, and the teacher blocked her number right after." By the time Tyler finished telling the story, he was laughing so hard he had tears in his eyes. I wiped my mouth and fell into thought. That was so her style. In my past life she had loved assigning tasks at 4 in the morning too. Last night even the executives at my father's company had received calls from her about some project, which scared my father so badly he thought company secrets had leaked, and he had to call an emergency meeting first thing in the morning. Just as I was about to leave, Tyler grabbed my arm and pointed toward Vivian. Vivian wore a look of disdain. You call this garbage food? Even a dog would not eat it off the ground. Desmond immediately spoke up. Vivian, I know cheap food like this is beneath you, but you have been hungry all day, so at least eat a little to get by. The cafeteria cook chopped at a steak with his knife, clearly annoyed. You two used a coupon to order the cheapest steak on the menu, and made me throw in a side of macaroni for free, fine, but now you are picking it apart. Eat it if you want or get out. Vivian pointed at the cook furiously. Who do you think you are, to speak to me like that? One phone call from me and this place would shut down, you know that? I could not help laughing out loud. Vivian froze, her face slowly turning red. Tyler laughed even harder, practically rolling on the floor. I headed toward the classroom, afterward, only to have Vivian block the doorway. She raised her voice. Still trying to run off? You cannot afford the price of making me angry. I clenched my jaw, completely speechless. Vivian struck a superior pose. What, seeing me with Desmond made you jealous? So you came up with this way to get back at me? Lawson, this is really the best you can do. Save yourself the trouble. Desmond and I have already promised ourselves to each other, and there is no way I would ever be with you. So stay away from us from now on, and if you ever cross the line again, I will not let it go. Vivian, is something seriously wrong with you? How many times do I have to say it? I have no interest in you. I threw up my hands helplessly. Who you choose to be with is entirely your business, so please leave me out of it. Vivian only got more worked up. Go ahead and keep pretending. In your past life you spent tens of millions chasing after me. Do you really think I forgot that? I pointed at her angrily. That was a past life. I do not like you now. Times have changed. Can you understand plain words? Vivian crossed her arms, as if she had not heard a word I said, and kept going. You are just jealous. You cannot stand seeing Desmond and me together, so you are deliberately targeting us. Did you think sending me to a psychiatric hospital would scare me into coming back to you? Keep dreaming. I was so furious I gritted my teeth and cursed. Lunatic. Then I turned and walked away. Vivian shouted a threat after me. Lawson, just wait until the sports meet tomorrow. At the sports meet the next day, Vivian was back at full energy, cheering loudly with a bright smile. A sponsor in the stands glanced over from a distance. That girl has real spark, and her grades are in the top 3 of the school. She might be worth sponsoring long term. Vivian was still laughing and cheering for her classmates. The teacher walked over to Vivian. Vivian, come with me for a moment. The sponsor smiled at Vivian. Very good. From now on, our company will sponsor you $8,000 a month, until you graduate from college. Vivian's expression turned cold. 8,000? Are you trying to insult me? Everyone froze in shock at that. The sponsor quickly waved his hands. Listen, 8,000 is more than enough to cover your daily expenses. Other students only get 5,000. The real estate industry is not what it used to be. It is a sunset industry at this point. Vivian crossed her arms, acting every bit the spoiled heiress. How am I supposed to build an international team with this little money? If you cannot afford to sponsor me properly, then give the spot to someone else. With that, Vivian scoffed and walked off. The teacher was furious and rushed over to smooth things over with the sponsor, but the sponsor was not having it and shoved the teacher's hand away. The sponsorship list fell to the ground and scattered in the wind, full of names of students waiting to be sponsored. The sponsor shouted angrily, "What a fine top student, too proud to accept charity. Since the students at this school have so much pride, then I will not waste my money here." With that he left. Meanwhile Jonah, who needed sponsorship, cried to his older brother. "We have no money left." Caleb's face was wet with tears too, but he still tried to comfort his brother. "Do not cry. There will be a way. There will be a way." Vivian saw this and looked down at them coldly. How pathetic, crying like this over a little charity. You have no pride left at all. I clenched my fists watching Vivian walk away, furious. Vivian, for the sake of your cheap pride, you just cut off someone else's only chance to change their fate. I walked over to the two crying brothers. It is fine, the Bennett Group is willing to sponsor you. The brothers looked up at the same time, asking in disbelief. Really? Really, 15,000 a month each, is that enough? The brothers exchanged a look, then dropped to their knees, their voices shaking. What? No, 3,000 is more than enough. Thank you, Lawson, thank you so much. We will repay you once we graduate from college. I pulled them both back to their feet. No need to kneel, just study hard. Vivian crossed her arms and watched coldly, a faint smile tugging at her lips. Buying their loyalty? Lawson, that is the only trick you have. I ignored Vivian's mocking remarks and left with the two brothers. The teacher watched Vivian's behavior, his face full of worry. Vivian used to be such a well-behaved girl. How could she seem like a completely different person now? She has not turned bad, she has simply gone back to who she was in her past life. The more I thought about it, the colder my smile became. People like her never wake up, until they fall flat on their face. Teacher, please go ahead and process the sponsorship paperwork for those two. I will cover it. The teacher grabbed my hand happily. Really? Lawson, that is wonderful, thank you so much. The teacher patted my shoulder, then led the two brothers off to handle the paperwork. As I turned to leave, Tyler came up behind me and slung an arm around my shoulder. I turned to look at him, he said, Lawson, what are you thinking about? Come on, we have a group dinner after the sports meet. Laughter filled the restaurant. A girl with her hair in buns held up her chopsticks, eyes lit up. What a feast. Everyone around the table wore matching smiles, the whole scene lively and warm. Tyler raised his glass. Vivian and Desmond do not seem to be here yet. He turned and glanced around the room. The other classmates immediately spoke up. Forget about them, let us just eat. Just then Vivian shoved the restaurant door open and walked in, with Desmond trailing behind her. She wore a look of disgust. A place decorated like this calls itself a restaurant? She said it while taking a seat. She picked through her plate with her chopsticks, full of disdain. This meat is as tough as wood. Does the server not even know how to pour water properly? Lawson, your taste has really gone downhill. I looked at Vivian with a flat expression, thinking to myself, she knows perfectly well this restaurant belongs to my family. She is doing this on purpose to provoke me. The others were stunned by what Vivian had said too. Suddenly Tyler slammed his water glass down on the table, furious. Vivian, you actually have the nerve to say that. He slapped the table and stood up out of anger. Because you pulled out of the race for no reason today. Our class lost 3 medals, but Vivian did not seem to care at all, her fingers idly tapping the table. Everyone trained for half a year. And you ruined it all over a tiny paper cut. Tyler grew more worked up as he spoke, looking like he could shoot fire from his eyes. Earlier that day in the school clinic, the nurse was still tending to a student's wound when the door burst open. Vivian rushed in supporting Desmond, whose face had gone pale, and spoke urgently. Doctor, please look at Desmond right away. He is hurt. The nurse looked down and saw it was just a scrape on his finger. She said nothing for a moment. She spoke calmly to the two of them. Listen, that other student over there needs his knee stitched up right away. Yours just needs a bandage. But Vivian snapped at her angrily. Do you have any idea how precious Desmond's hands are? If even a single scar is left, I will hold you personally responsible. The nurse did not even look up, her tone flat. Please go wait in line in the back. Back at the restaurant, Vivian, completely unbothered, picked up a drink and poured it over the grilled fish. Tyler slammed the table and stood up, demanding angrily. Vivian, everyone here thinks this place is great. What exactly is your problem with it? Vivian wore a look of pure disdain. Great? Have you ever even been to a real restaurant? Too bad you will never get the chance in this lifetime. Desmond chimed in right away, a mocking edge to his voice. Some people are just born poor. Vivian, do not bother lowering yourself to their level. They will never come close to you in this lifetime. One blew her up, the other ate it right up. The two of them really were made for each other. Thinking about it, I smiled and spoke up. Well, if a future billionaire is eating with us, she surely will not need us poor folks chipping in. I slid the bill across the table toward her. Madam future billionaire, why do you not cover today's $5,000 bill? Vivian looked down at it, and her face went red instantly. The classmates beside her laughed and egged her on. $5,000, that is basically nothing to Vivian, right? Desmond, come with me. With that, Vivian grabbed the bill and pulled Desmond up to go pay. I smirked, crossed my arms on the table and said flatly, forget $5,000. Vivian could not scrape together $50 to her name. As I spoke, the smile faded from my face and my eyes turned cold. Let us see how you plan to pay this. Before long, Vivian came back. She crossed her arms and walked over with a smug look, then slapped a receipt down on the table. What are you all staring at? It is only $5,000. The classmates exchanged glances, and someone lowered their voice. She actually managed to pay it. Maybe she really is rich after all. Vivian picked up her wine glass, swirling the drink inside, a smug smile on her lips as she looked at me. Lawson, let us see what you have to say now. The door slammed open and Desmond walked in with a dark expression, the necklace gone from his neck, glaring at me. I smirked, my tone laced with sarcasm. Well, look at that, selling off a family heirloom just to keep up appearances. Suddenly the door was kicked open and 3 men carrying steel pipes walked in. The scar-faced man leading them pointed his pipe at Desmond. Desmond, finally caught you. Everyone else gasped in fright. Desmond stood frozen on the spot. 2 of the men stepped forward and grabbed him, and Desmond shouted, "What are you doing? What is this?" Scarface grabbed Desmond by the collar, his voice vicious. "Your father owes us $3 million in loan shark debt, and if it is not paid back today, your hand pays the price instead." Desmond's face went pale with fear, tears and snot smeared across it. "That is my father's debt. Go find him. I do not have any money." The man in the blue shirt put away his knife and pulled an ID card from his pocket, waving it in front of Desmond. "Your father ran off this morning and left a note saying the son repays the father's debt." I crossed my arms, leaned against the wall and tilted my head. The show was just getting started. In my past life, Desmond had sold a kidney, and even tried to extort money from me, probably driven to it by his father back then too. But there was always a reason behind a pitiable person's misfortune. Scarface grabbed Desmond's collar again, and in the shoving, Desmond lost his footing and fell straight to the ground. Desmond scrambled back up, his voice still shaking, but the words were already out. "I have money. My girlfriend is going to be the richest woman in the world. She promised she would help me pay this back." The man in the brown shirt grabbed Desmond's collar and sneered. "Future billionaire?" The man in the blue shirt chimed in beside him. "Desmond, do you think we are a bunch of little kids?" Tears poured down Desmond's face, his voice hoarse and trembling. "It is true, I swear. My girlfriend is going to be extremely, extremely rich. I am telling the truth. This little gambling debt would mean nothing to her." Desmond suddenly seemed to grasp at a lifeline, pointing toward the door, his voice cracking. "Look, she is here." All 3 men turned to look. Vivian strolled in slowly, her face nearly expressionless, her tone calm as if discussing something trivial. "His father owes you $3 million, does he not? I will pay it for him." Vivian calmly took the pen from Scarface's hand and wrote out an IOU without a hint of hesitation. "Keep this safe. In 10 years I will pay you back 20 times the amount, principal and interest included." Scarface laughed loudly and snatched the IOU, tearing it to shreds. "Are you insane? I want cash, not some empty promise on paper." Vivian unexpectedly grabbed my arm. "Lawson, pay this debt off for him, and I will consider being your girlfriend." I listened in disbelief. Vivian bit her lip, as if working up the nerve to speak, her voice quieter than before. I can let you have me, but my heart will always belong to Desmond. As she said this, she suddenly lunged at me as if she had nothing left to lose, looking like she meant to kiss me. I stumbled backward in shock and shouted, completely exasperated. Is there something wrong with you? When did I ever say I liked you? Vivian pulled back and sneered. Stop acting so high and mighty. In your past life you were head over heels in love with me. If you are going to be reborn, try bringing some brains with you. I admit I liked you in my past life, but that was something that happened 5 years from now. Right now I barely even know you. So stop asking for trouble. Vivian looked as if she had expected this all along. So you have memories of your past life too. Then this makes things easier. Hand the money over like a good boy, and I will guarantee your family's safety 10 years from now. Otherwise you know what happens to people who anger me. I let out a light laugh. But do not forget, without me you will never become the richest woman in the world this time around, Vivian said playfully. Oh, is that so? Watching Vivian act so unreasonable, I could not be bothered to argue further, pushed past her, and walked off. Behind me came Vivian's voice, gritted through her teeth. Lawson, I promise you, someday you will pay dearly for the mistake you made today. Vivian spread her arms to block the three men, chin lifted, her tone dripping with condescension. Tell your boss to come see me personally. In my past life he could not even get a meeting with me when he was begging to work together. If you forgive this debt in this lifetime, I will make all of you rich. Scarface looked at Vivian like she was insane. You are going to make me rich? Go get rich at the psych ward first. Scarface slapped Vivian across the face and said coldly, get them. The men did not hesitate, all rushing in at once. Vivian was beaten to the ground but still kept talking back. Have you all lost your minds? I am going to be the richest woman in the world. Once my funds come through, you will all regret this. Desmond rolled around on the ground from the blows, clutching his head and begging, please go easy on me. Not the face, please. Tyler was so frightened by the scene that he hid in a corner, trembling, and quietly pulled out his phone, his eyes wide with fear. No, I have to call the police right now. Before long, sirens sounded outside the restaurant. The three men froze at once, and one of them went pale. Boss, the cops are here. Scarface gritted his teeth and glared down at Vivian and Desmond on the ground. Let us go, but you two had better watch yourselves. We will settle this another time. With that, the three of them bolted without looking back, running like they were being chased. Only Vivian and Desmond remained on the floor, both covered in bruises, still shaken, Desmond especially, his face swollen beyond recognition. Vivian sat on the floor, hugging herself and shaking. She kept her head down for a long moment, growing angrier the more she thought about it, then slammed her fist on the floor, her eyes red. This is all Lawson's fault. Meanwhile, Desmond rolled on the ground, clutching his face, wailing louder than he had during the actual beating. My face! Tyler looked at the two of them, lying there miserably, and finally let out a breath of relief, patting his chest, his voice still shaking. Good thing I called the police, otherwise these two would probably be feeding the fish at the bottom of the river by now. The next day, Tyler was directing two classmates. Move these two desks into the storage room. One of the classmates picked up a desk, looking confused. What happened, Tyler? What is going on? Tyler crossed his arms, his tone full of gossip. Those two dropped out, said they are off to start a business and make big money. Apparently they will be CEO Vivian and CEO Desmond from now on. Everyone burst out laughing at that. Just then, sitting at my desk, my phone suddenly buzzed. I looked down and saw a text from Vivian. If you had not brought people to catch me cheating in our past life, and had just turned a blind eye and let Desmond stay in the picture, maybe I could still be with you now. Reading Vivian's baffling text, I smiled with amusement. Too bad you could not stand having him around. I texted back. Who do you think you are, keeping a man on the side? As if you have any right to that. Vivian replied instantly. Looking at it now, Desmond really is a better fit to be my husband than you. I frowned and typed back a few words. Get lost. The scene shifted to a startup incubator, where I was on the second floor making a call. Dad, that speech event I mentioned to you, are you almost here? Suddenly Vivian's voice came from downstairs. Hello, Manager Chen. I am Vivian. I stood up from the sofa and looked over at Vivian. Though confused, I turned to leave, thinking to myself, what is she doing here? Vivian shoved a project proposal toward Manager Chen as they stood there. Manager Chen, I am here to discuss a partnership, my project model. In my past life, no. I have already run through it countless times. If you invest 3 million, next year the returns will double. Manager Chen adjusted his glasses, brows furrowed. What university are you from? Did you send the proposal to our email? Vivian stammered a bit. I did drop out, but my understanding of the market far exceeds those college students. Manager Chen scoffed and walked away. I looked down at Vivian from the second floor, my tone a bit mocking. Vivian thought her success in her past life came from that theory of hers. No, it came from her degree from a top university as a door opener, and the red carpet I personally rolled out for her. Without the degree, without the Bennett family backing her, you do not even have the standing to speak to me face to face. Vivian completely lost it and cursed. Who do you think you are? Once I become the richest woman in the world, I will make you get down on your knees and beg me. Just then, 2 security guards walked up to Vivian. Who are you? How did you get in here? Vivian's eyes darted around, her tone losing some confidence. I am the girlfriend of the Bennett family's young master. The guards burst out laughing at that, their laughter dripping with disbelief, and pointed sharply toward the door. Another fraud trying her luck. Get out now. The guards chased Vivian into a corner. She had just steadied herself when she saw Lawson walk in. She bit her lip and stepped out from the corner. Lawson, let me tell you something. No matter who I partner with, it will never be the Bennett Group. So you can give up on that idea. Has it occurred to you that I actually came here to invest in someone else and have no interest in you whatsoever? Vivian clenched her fists in fury. You. My father looked at Vivian and asked, who is this young woman? My tone was flat. Do not worry about her, just some lunatic. Dad, let us go, we still need to catch that speech. My father pointed at Vivian, his face full of anger. How did someone like this get in here? Security, take her out. I scoffed and walked off right after. Vivian stomped her foot in fury. The guards rushed over and grabbed her by the arms. Come on, get out. Inside the conference hall, a woman in a white suit was giving a speech. Esteemed guests. Hello everyone, I am Iris, today's speaker. Sitting in the audience, I could not help drifting back to my past life. Actually, in my past life, the person my father valued most had been Iris, my senior from school. A look of approval crossed my father's eyes. Lawson, look at Miss Iris, a top university graduate. Humble and dependable. Always get straight to the heart of any issue. This is the kind of person who could truly carry the Bennett family's future. But then my father changed his tone. Still, as I have always said, if someday you could have a partner like Iris by your side, I would finally be able to rest easy. Hearing this, I felt a flash of annoyance. Dad, Iris is impressive, sure, but I only think of her as an older sister. The kind of woman I love is someone with drive, like Vivian, someone with real personality. My father swallowed back what he was about to say. Fine, forget it then, do whatever you want. My thoughts returned to the present. Since I had a second chance at life, the recognition, the authority, all of it that should have been yours, and the rightful place that came far too late, I would return every bit of it to you, without missing a thing. This time around, my father looked at Iris, the same look of approval in his eyes as in my past life, identical in every way. Lawson, look at Iris, a top university graduate, humble and dependable, truly outstanding. I chimed in right away. She really is outstanding. My father's gaze returned to the stage, his tone casual but decisive. Let us invest in her startup project this time. That concludes my presentation on the startup plan. Thank you all for listening. After listening, my father walked up to the stage slowly and extended his hand, approval in his eyes. Miss Iris, that was outstanding. Iris stepped forward immediately and shook his hand, her smile gracious. Thank you for the kind words, Mr. Bennett. Our group has decided to invest in your project. My father patted the back of her hand. Iris's eyes lit up, her tone carrying just the right amount of excitement. Thank you so much, Mr. Bennett. I will not let you down. Iris turned to me as well, her eyes full of gratitude. Lawson, thank you for the introduction. If you had not convinced the chairman to come, I doubt I would have gotten an opportunity like this. I waved my hand, a little embarrassed. I did not really do much. You earned this on your own merit. In my past life, in order to help Vivian, I had taken away Iris's chance to shine here, leaving her stuck in an ordinary position, wasting several years for nothing. I made a silent vow to myself. This time, let us start fresh. The next day, at the research lab, Iris jogged over to greet me, beaming. Welcome aboard, Lawson, to our research team. From now on, we are officially partners. I extended my hand, smiling as I shook hers. Looking forward to working with you. Iris became the daughter-in-law candidate my father could not stop praising, and I had finally returned to where I belonged. That night, the lab lights were still on. I paused as I passed by. This late, who is still inside? I leaned toward the door and peeked in. Iris stared at the screen, brows slightly furrowed. The third decimal place is wrong. Let me run it again. I stood outside watching for a moment, quietly impressed. Iris always arrived first and left last, always refining every plan to perfection. She handled everything with such careful judgment, never arrogant or dismissive like Vivian. Finally, this one checks out, Iris exclaimed happily from inside. I stood there a moment longer, smiled, and turned to leave. Early the next morning at the train station, Iris sat reading a book while I walked over yawning, still half asleep. Iris, you got up this early and you are not even tired. I am used to it. Back when I was studying, I got up at 6 every day. I kept that up for 6 years. That is incredible discipline. I glanced at my watch and thought of Vivian without meaning to. If it had been her, forget 5 in the morning, even getting her up at 10 for a meeting, would have meant half a day of complaining. In my past life. In the boardroom, the directors exchanged glances. Where is Vivian? What time is it already? Why is she still not here? The assistant said timidly. CEO Vivian is still on her way. The clock on the wall read 9 minutes past 10. The assistant approached Vivian carefully, speaking quickly under his breath. CEO Vivian, the directors have been waiting an hour and a half for the financial report audit that is next on the schedule. Vivian looked at the assistant, her tone lazy. What is the rush? The assistant forced himself to continue. The company attendance policy says 10 o'clock. Vivian smiled and pulled out a chair to sit down. Attendance policy? That is for the people sitting below me. Successful people do not need to follow attendance rules. I was still lost in thought when Iris suddenly turned to me, her eyes warm but earnest. Thank you for coming with me on this market research trip. With such a responsible investor on board, our project is bound to succeed. I reached out a hand then pulled it back, rubbing my head a little awkwardly. I am always thorough when it comes to projects, but the reason I showed up here at 5 in the morning today was purely because you were the one leading the trip. Iris's face flushed and she looked away. Let us hurry. The train is about to leave. I watched her walk a few steps faster than before, smiled, and followed after her. Inside the factory they were inspecting. Lawson, take a look at this factory. The equipment may be old, but the workers are highly skilled. With investment for upgrades, output could increase at least 5-fold. I nodded in agreement. When choosing a partner, do not listen to how good their words sound. Look at how much they have actually accomplished. Listening to Iris speak, my mind drifted to Vivian again. Actually accomplishing things? Was that not the exact opposite of her? All talk and no substance. Making empty promises every day. with no real ability behind any of it. On the train ride back, I watched Iris sleeping soundly and thought to myself, in my past life, I had poured all my attention into Vivienne, and never once truly looked at Iris, only realizing in the end, who had actually been worth cherishing all along. This time, I would never make the same mistake again. Iris had fallen asleep leaning against the window. I looked at her profile, raised my hand slightly, then lowered it again. A few days later, Vivienne ran up to me excitedly, showing off with a smug expression. Lawson, I already secured $8 million in investment. This is only the first step. It will not take 10 years for me to get back to where I belong. Just wait, someday you will be on your knees begging me. I looked at her with a cold smile, said suit yourself, and walked off without paying her any more attention. Seeing this, Vivienne ground her teeth in fury, anger flashing in her eyes. 3 days later, Caleb ran toward me holding up his phone, out of breath, shouting before he even caught his breath. Huge news. Vivienne, the one who dropped out to start a business, just got scammed badly. I took the phone and looked at the screen. The headline was glaring. Genius dropout entrepreneur falls victim to massive fraud. Caleb continued. Her patent got sold off for next to nothing. Her entire business concept was stolen wholesale, and even the website she had worked so hard to build got completely wrecked by hackers. I scrolled through the screen, feeling barely any reaction inside, a cold smile tugging at my lips instead as I handed the phone back to Caleb. All it took was a few sweet promises from the other side for her to think she had struck gold, without my family's resources protecting her this time. Her arrogance could not survive reality's harsh beating. As it turned out, days earlier at a cafe, a woman with curly hair had slid a check across the table. I have great confidence in this project. This $8 million is just the first installment for you. Vivienne stared at the number on the check, her eyes lighting up. Wonderful, you are truly the one who recognized my potential. The curly-haired woman took a sip of coffee and said flatly, however, by industry standard, you will need to pay an $800,000 deposit first, as a performance guarantee. Vivienne froze. $800,000? The woman made a move as if to take back the check. Never mind then, we will go invest in someone else. Vivienne quickly grabbed her hand. I will pay it. Just give me a few days. With no other options, Vivienne turned to loan sharks. Scarface slid a contract across the table. This is $500,000, $1.5 million in interest after a year. Vivienne's hand trembled slightly as she took the contract. Her face drained of color. Why is the interest so high? Scarface smiled, stepping closer with each word. You were quick enough to sign the contract back then. Now you act like you had no idea. He stopped in front of Vivienne, his voice dropping lower. If you cannot pay, there are plenty of ways to get it out of you instead. Vivienne was so frightened she could barely speak. I understand. I will pay it back. She kept her head down, tears hitting the floor, then turned and ran out. In an alley, Vivienne dialed a number. Uncle, lend me another $30,000, just $30,000, and I will turn things around right away. There was a long silence on the other end. All right, Vivienne. Your uncle will trust you one more time. I am giving you everything I have saved up. Vivienne's eyes lit up, her voice rising with excitement. Do not worry, uncle. This project is guaranteed to succeed. Vivienne looked at her phone and tapped once, confirming the transfer. Vivienne put her phone away, a smile curling at her lips. Lawson, just you wait. Once I become the richest woman in the world, I will make you get on your knees and beg me. The next morning at Vivienne's place, the curly-haired woman would not answer calls and had blocked her texts. Vivienne stared at her phone screen, frozen. How could this be? The phone slipped from her hand and hit the floor. She slowly crouched down, holding her head, her voice shaking. I got scammed. $800,000. That was everything I had. Vivienne sobbed, then suddenly looked up. This has to be Lawson behind it all. She pushed herself up using her knees, stumbling out the door, her voice thick with tears and hatred. Yes, it must be him. Vivienne rushed up to me and grabbed my shoulders hard, her eyes red. Lawson, was this you behind the scenes? You are afraid I will succeed in my business. Afraid I will get back at you someday. Is not that right? I pried her hands off, my tone turning cold. What does this have to do with me? Vivienne, you made your own foolish choices. Do not pin them on me. Iris hurried over and stepped in front of me. Vivienne, I heard about what happened to you. There was nothing wrong with your business direction or your ideas. It is just that people can be far too complicated. You should be more careful going forward. Vivienne pointed viciously at Iris. Iris, in your past life, you were nothing but a dog working under me. Stop pretending to be kind and get out of my sight. I knew very well in my heart that Vivienne had always believed she could become the richest woman in the world, entirely through her own ability, with absolutely nothing to do with me or with Iris. But she was completely wrong. Without the two of us, she would never have come anywhere close to that kind of success in this lifetime. Iris grabbed Vivienne's wrist, her grip tightening without her realizing it. Ah, that hurts. You scheming fake. Let go of me. Iris issued a warning. If you dare bother Lawson again, do not blame me for not holding back. Iris lifted Vivienne up and shoved her aside. Security. This woman is not in her right mind. Please take her away. The guard ran over and grabbed Vivienne, who shouted, Let go of me. Do not touch me. I am going to be the richest woman in the world. If you cross me, can you really afford the consequences? The guard glanced at her. You, a billionaire? Sure. And I am the next tech tycoon then. Get out of here. Now. Vivienne went back to find Scarface. He folded his hands on the table and started working on her. Vivienne, ordinary people rely on physical labor. Seeing her still hesitate, he continued. Smart people rely on information gaps. If you just promote this investment opportunity, your current capital could triple by next week. Hearing this, Vivienne's pen paused in her hand, the tip poking at the paper as she murmured, Triple. What if I bring in even more people? Scarface's grin nearly split his face. That would be even better. Vivian, you really know how to think ahead. And so, as if possessed, Vivian held her phone and sent messages to everyone she knew one by one. High returns, limited slots available, practically trying to rope in every contact in her phone. At a cafe, Vivian was pitching Tyler on investing, while still texting project details to other people. Vivian, what exactly have you been so busy with lately? Those founder shares you mentioned on the phone just now. Something about it does not sound right. Vivian glared up at him. What do you know, Tyler? You are just too cautious. That is why you will spend your whole life grinding away for a fixed salary. Tyler frowned. Vivian, I still think something is off about this project. Vivian grabbed her phone and bag, pushed her chair back, and walked off without looking back, tossing a line over her shoulder. Forget it, I am not wasting time arguing with you. If you are not investing, do not waste my time. Tyler sighed but followed her anyway. Hiding behind a utility pole, he watched Vivian standing outside his shop, talking on the phone urgently and forcefully. Send the payment now. If you do not, the bank is going to freeze your account. Tyler froze, his frown deepening, and after a few seconds of hesitation, pulled out his phone and called the police. Hello, is this the police? I think I found a scam ring. Yes, my classmate seems to be involved. 6 months later, the police came to find me. Vivian had already been arrested. For these past 6 months, she had been at the center of an illegal fundraising scheme. You and Vivian are classmates. We need your cooperation in this investigation. I nodded. Of course, I will fully cooperate. What kinds of messages did she send you over these past 6 months? I looked down at my phone, scrolled through a few, said nothing, and simply handed the screen to the officer. Lawson, for the sake of what we used to have, transfer me $800,000, and I will forgive you and let bygones be bygones. Lawson, I just need $500,000 more to make this business work. I promise once I become the richest woman in the world, I will never seek revenge on you. The officer taking notes paused his pen for a moment. His mouth twitched, shoulders shaking as he tried to hold back laughter. Lawson, transfer me $200,000, and I will make you vice president of my company right away. The officer recording statements turned red, trying not to laugh, nearly tearing up. Lawson, transfer me $100,000, and I will forgive you, I said calmly. Go ahead and laugh if you need to. Even I find these messages painful to look at. Lawson, based on our investigation, your classmate Vivian is suspected of multiple counts of wire fraud. The case is serious. She will most likely be sentenced to prison. All right, understood. She is extremely stubborn. Her only request is to see you once. Otherwise, she refuses to cooperate with the investigation. For the sake of recovering more of the victim's losses, I agreed to see her. In the prison visitation room, Vivian sat in her inmate uniform, head down, her voice barely audible. Lawson, I am sorry. I looked at her through the glass, staying silent for a moment before speaking. When you first joined that scam ring, did you not notice anything wrong at all? She gave a bitter smile. From the very first day I knew something was wrong with that place, but I just refused to admit it. I could not help but sigh. Vivian suddenly slammed her fist on the table, her handcuffs clanking against the metal surface. I am just a money-obsessed failure. I cannot accomplish anything. I fought with everything I had to prove myself, wanting to show you I could achieve something, but in the end all I proved was how useless I really am. Vivian raised her head, her voice thick with tears. Lawson, the truth is I realized long ago that you were the one I truly loved. It is just that in my past life, no matter how high I climbed, you never once looked up to me, as if everything I did had always been something you already expected. Vivian lifted her head, her eyes meeting mine through the glass, a trace of stubborn longing still in her voice. That day you brought people to break into the home Desmond and I shared. My first instinct was to try to win you back, if you would just forgive me, and pretend none of it had happened. We could go back to the life we had before. Halfway through, her tone suddenly dropped, but all you wanted was a divorce, and to send me away with absolutely nothing. In my past life, inside the mansion, Vivian sat on the sofa, visibly pregnant, with Desmond standing beside her. A lawyer held an agreement, his tone level and cold. Based on the evidence Mr. Bennett has provided, Miss Vivian misappropriated company funds illegally, and the affair during the marriage has been confirmed. He turned a page and continued. According to the agreement, Miss Vivian, you will leave this marriage with nothing, not a single dollar. Vivian did not look up, her fingers gripping the edge of the sofa, until they turned white. After a long pause, she finally spoke quietly. Not a single dollar. That night, Vivian turned open the gas valve, her voice low and cold. I want you dead. Desmond stood beside her, fists clenched, his voice tinged with barely contained excitement. Once this is done, the entire Bennett family fortune will be ours. I appeared at the kitchen doorway, startling them both into falling to the floor. Vivian, what are you sneaking around doing here? Vivian sat on the floor, tears coming instantly. I am still carrying your child. How could you be so heartless and leave me with nothing? I leaned down, looking at her from above, my tone flat. Carrying Desmond's child and still trying to fool me into taking the fall for it. Vivian, you really did think I was some saint? Vivian's face froze, then twisted with humiliated rage. I will take you down with me. Vivian and Desmond charged at me together, shoving me toward the gas tank. Vivian and Desmond then ran out of the kitchen. She held up a lighter, the flame flickering in front of her eyes. Then go straight to hell. The lighter flew past in front of me, the flame tracing an arc through the air. I did not hesitate, rushing forward to grab hold of Vivian and Desmond. 3 lives for mine. It was a trade I could not lose either way. A blast sounded behind me, flames erupting, and all 3 of us were instantly swallowed by the fire. Back in the present, I rubbed my ear, looking impatient. Are you done? If you are, I am leaving. Iris is waiting on me for the project. I do not have time to listen to this pointless rambling. Desmond suddenly shoved me into a chair, fury in his eyes, but then turned and shouted at Vivian. You actually lied to me? I was the one who saved your life in your past life. Without my kidney, you would have died long ago. Desmond shook Vivian by the shoulders, his voice urgent and hoarse. You promised to spend your whole life with me, to make a fortune and help pay off my father's gambling debt, and instead you took the gold necklace my mother left me and ran off with it. Where is the money? Give it back to me, you liar. Vivian shoved Desmond away hard, sneering. Saved my life? I paid for that kidney myself, and if you had not talked me into joining that fraudulent company, I would never have ended up in prison. So do not think you are getting off easy either. Vivian suddenly looked up, her voice carrying a reckless edge. I am going to report this. Desmond is part of the scam ring too. He is the one who pulled me into it. Desmond's eyes flared red, and he raised his hand and slapped her. Shut your mouth. Stop pretending. Desmond breathed heavily, pointing at her. If you do not give me back my gold necklace and jade pendant, I will make sure you rot in prison for the rest of your sentence. He spun around and ran off. At this point, Vivian finally turned to me, her voice thick with tears. For the sake of what we once had as husband and wife, please help me, will you? As she spoke, tears began falling. I know if you would just speak up for me, I could spend fewer years in here. Vivian reached out to grab my hand, but I pulled away. My tone turned cold. Do you have any idea how many families you destroyed? I stood up and turned to leave. Vivian, this is exactly the punishment you deserve. Try to be a better person. Vivian sank back down to the floor, neither chasing after me nor saying a word. At the courthouse, the judge delivered the verdict. The defendant, Vivian, is guilty of fraud and is sentenced to 5 years in prison according to the law. Iris and I watched the news together. In a closely watched case, the fundraising scheme led by a woman surnamed Vivian has received its first instance ruling from the court, as the defendant Vivian had lured victims with promises of high returns. Inside the Bennett Group offices, Iris flipped through some documents and asked casually, Any news on that Desmond fellow? I leaned back in my chair, my tone flat. Nothing. I heard from the police that he showed up covered in injuries to file a report a while back, claiming his father had sold him off to an older man to be kept as a plaything. Iris's brow furrowed slightly. Did the police not do anything? I shook my head. The other man had a signed contract from Desmond's father, so it got classified as a family dispute, and there has been no word about Desmond since. Iris fell silent for a moment, then let out a soft sigh. Well, I suppose that counts as getting what he deserved. One day, 5 years later, at an upscale reception, the lights sparkled and the guests mingled elegantly, raising their glasses in conversation. Vivian stumbled in, her expression terrible. The guest turned to stare in surprise. She spotted me in the crowd at once and stumbled over, grabbing the hem of my jacket and dropping to her knees. Lawson, I know I was wrong. Please give me one more chance. I looked at her coldly, my mind drifting back to my past life. Vivian, our parents are pressuring us again, about when we are going to have a child. Vivian waved her hand dismissively, her tone impatient. I have told you I am an independent woman. I do not need a child to define who I am. This lifetime is all about my career, so do not bother me with your parents' outdated obsession over having children. I paused, then nodded anyway. All right, Vivian, we will hold off on having a child as you wish. Your career matters. One day after that, I pushed open the door and saw Vivian with her back to me, on the phone. To the doctor, telling them I am already a month pregnant. Yes, it is yours, do not worry. He loves me so much. He believes anything I tell him. My footsteps stopped dead, and I stood frozen on the spot. Once the child is born, I will get him to sign over his shares. My voice trembled. So it was all a lie from the start? Vivian, still holding the phone, kept laughing, her voice airy. Good, and once we inherit that massive fortune someday, the entire Bennett family fortune will be ours. I clenched my fists, my knuckles turning white. Back at the reception, Vivian's hand was still clutching the hem of my jacket. I shoved her hand away. There are hundreds of millions of women across this country who would line up to have my child. There is no way it would ever fall to a convicted felon to bear an heir to the Bennett family. Just then, Iris, visibly pregnant, walked over and looped her arm through mine, leaning gently against my shoulder, her tone soft. What is going on, honey? Vivian watched this, tears still streaming down, her voice shifting in pitch. I do not believe this, Lawson. You must be lying to me, right? As she spoke, her voice grew shrill. How could you marry her? I am your wife. I wrapped my arm around Iris's shoulder and looked at Vivian in front of me. I have never once made myself a cuckold, carrying another man's child, and trying to make me the fool who picks up the pieces as your husband. Vivian screamed hysterically. Lawson, how could you do this to me? I did not turn back, walking forward with Iris by my side. One day, Vivian suddenly rushed in front of my car and sobbed to a crowd of reporters. Iris is nothing but a homewrecker who stole my place. I am the rightful wife of the richest man. The moment I got out of the car, she rushed at me as if grasping at a lifeline, and I shoved her away. Iris walked over and naturally looped her arm through mine. My husband is the richest man around. He would never go for someone as classless as you, I said to security. Block her from everything. I do not want to see her again. The two security guards responded at once. Understood, young master. They grabbed Vivian right away, hauling her out by the arms while she struggled and screamed the whole way, one of her shoes falling off and left behind, alone. Life went on peacefully after that. Iris and I were reading a parenting guide together when my phone suddenly rang on the table. I picked up, and the voice on the other end paused for a moment. Mr. Bennett, Vivian died on the street from illness. Vivian is dead? I repeated the words, as if to confirm them. Iris set down her pen, sighed, and spoke calmly. I suppose that counts as getting what she deserved. Still, you two were classmates once. Go ahead and pay for her burial. The person on the phone paused. Understood, Mr. Bennett. That night the rain kept falling. In a pavilion, Vivian lay curled up on a bench, wearing thin clothes, covered with a newspaper soaked through by the rain, her hand hanging limp and letting the raindrops fall on it without pulling back. Someone passing by with an umbrella paused for a moment, glanced down, frowned, and waved a hand through the air. Another homeless person dead. Then he looked away and walked off. I stood on the balcony, a cool breeze blowing against my face. Iris came up behind me and gently draped a jacket over my shoulders. Do not catch a cold. I turned to look at her, warmth in my eyes, my voice softening. It is fine. I have you. As I was looking at Iris, two small figures ran out from the living room, each wrapping themselves around one of my legs, looking up and calling out, "Daddy! Daddy!" I patted my two daughters on the head, thinking quietly to myself, the mess from my past life had been wiped clean in this one. Some people just need one helping hand. Giving them a second one only hurts yourself. Sunlight broke through the clouds, falling on the four of us as a family. As for Vivian and Desmond, it was as if it had all just been a nightmare, and now the dream was over. The sun rose just as it always did. Our family walked outward, hand in hand, the sunlight stretching our shadows long behind us, as if leaving the past there for good.